If you are a helpaholic or in need of recovery, you are listening for a reason. Thank you for joining the ZoliArt Montana podcast. My name is Linda, here with Zoli Althea Brown. Zoli, you use the term helpaholic. Can you describe what that means, please?
Yeah, you're looking at it. I jokingly say I'm a recovering helpaholic because in my younger years, until I learned boundaries, and it's very difficult for the artistic personality to do that, until I learned boundaries, I would get my self esteem from very lovingly wanting to help other people. But there's an addendum to that. I was doing it lovingly, but it was also giving me something to do to improve my self esteem, to help them, but basically to try to move me forward away from my emotions. Until I really got into my recovery process, I did it for like 20 years. It took me about 5 years to realize I was doing it, but it's a real addiction, which means that I was paying attention to that instead of to God, to the isness. Maitreya says everyone on the earth right now is addicted to something. I don't care if it's yoga, yogurt, not being addicted to something. I don't even really understand that statement, but I'll go with it just for convenience sake. I think it has also to do, in my interpretation, with what we do to distract ourselves. You and I discussed this a lot. Has to do with the feeling motion and what happens when I have a feeling come up. Do I want to rush and go do something I need to do? Make barbecue sauce, do laundry, work on ZoliArt, squirrel, anything like that. That's just human nature. There's nothing wrong with it. But there are times where we have to turn our information that we have towards ourselves. I heard a great statement once. This lady said, take everything you know and apply it to yourself. Well, there's a book, literally. But I use myself as an example because the person I am now at age almost 72 is very different than who I was when I began my recovery process at age 34. 33, whatever. When I began that, I didn't even have a clue, but this is what learning is about. So we have, they say, good addictions, bad addictions. You can be addicted to exercise, you can be addicted to eating well. But I think what it is the addiction is just kind of an inner panic that if we don't do that, something bad will happen. It might. Something awful might happen. I don't really know. But the whole idea of being a helpaholic, my term, is your life is more important than mine consistently. And I hope you don't see what's going on with me.
So, how can you tell if you're being a helpaholic or if you're helping for positive reasons?
How much does it drain you? I was drained all the time. I was around user people. They weren't all bad people. They just were adult children. They were usually drinking, drugging, whatever, and nice Zoli was going to help them. What was I doing? I didn't grow up with alcohol addiction in my home, drug addiction. I came from a really normal, and I say that with a smile, old Southern family in the deep South. There was no overt addiction. So what happened to me? What happened? My lack of self-esteem. So I had to watch what it did to me. Why, when I'm around this person, do I feel like shit? Why? And then I would watch myself after a while, try to get away from them or avoid the situation, and I would lie to get out of situations. I wasn't at the point yet, which is another addiction. I wasn't at the point yet that I could just say, it's not right for me. I'm not going to do it, or just avoid them. They call it ghosting these days. You have the right to ghost anybody for any reason. You really do. You don't have to explain yourself all the time. And let me explain that statement. If you're supposed to go to work or to a job and you're ghosting your boss, there's going to be consequences. There's consequences for everything, right? But how do you tell the difference? It's a really personal thing. You'll have your own signatures. That little small voice inside will get really loud and go, how do you feel about this? Or this person? And aren't they an adult? Won't they have to figure it out themselves? or want that organization the minute you leave, find somebody just like you. Our ego gets involved. And for me, being an Aries sun, grand trine of the fire sign, Sag of the midhaven, ego can be a real whopper. My ego would manifest in that they can't live without me. They can't do it without me. It held them in stasis. So are we really holding people in stasis? There's so much help out there. And what I prefer to do now is to say, let me stop you there. You're talking about your issues or whatever that is. I would suggest you tell that to a licensed psychological counselor, psychiatrist, clergy, trusted somebody, elder, somebody that can actually help you. I can't. If you just want to vent, you can vent, but not to me. You can't do that to me because it drains me. It drains me and I cannot help you. So to really help people, we want to be more Capricornian than Cancer in a way. We want to give information and certainly physically help. Oh my gosh, in my mom's later years, she had people that helped her. She died at 99. God's sake, she needed help and she accepted it gracefully. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm speaking of are the repeat offenders in your life. People who show over and over and over again. I'm not talking about your children, unless they're adults. Bye, see you. You're 18, get out of my basement. I don't know. I'm not a parent. I don't know. I would suggest the feeling nature once again. Find somebody to talk to because I tell you what, whatever your story is, there's a lot of other people that have the same story. And we think that we don't. We think we don't share that with anybody. And it can be very freeing and very loving. And oh my God, I feel free from this. Then we'll go through the guilt stage. Look what I did to them. Well, you didn't do anything to them. What you did was take care of yourself and your life and mirror to those people that you can do that. You get some help. You be That's what I would suggest. And I'm not a counselor. I was just coming from codependent Zoli.
It seems like the helpaholic wants to help others so they don't have to go within in some ways.
I think it can be. It can be rather individual, and it can be a learned behavior that you learned it growing up, that you had to take care of a parent, and then you found that that was satisfying or that helped you, and then maybe the parent wasn't so great. There are so many different kind of stories, but the signature is that if you are being drained, and if you are not taking care of yourself, and you're taking care of others that really don't need you to, that's the addendum right there. They really don't need you to. They want you there. Well, I want you to do this or this. It's not a need. You want it to make you feel better. What do you eat? Our needs are what? Water, food, clothing, shelter. You can add medical care, community, whatever. We have needs that the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are things that if you are in the Gobi Desert, your needs are going to be water, food, shelter, and clothing, and hopefully a cell phone that works. But we get those confused. And so codependency tells us that we don't have the right to look at that and say, that's something that you want. It's not a need of yours. And I can point you in a good direction. I can point you in a direction, and then you have to do it. I have found people usually won't, because those people that I had in my life, they went from one helpaholic to the next. Do this for me, help me with this. I will blame you, I will emotionally hurt you, I will do whatever. But get them out of your life if you can. If you're in a work situation, that can be very, very difficult. What can you do? I don't know, talk to a superior. I don't know. I mean, what can you do? That I'm not the person to talk to about that situation because I'm up here in this Montana wilderness and I don't have a work situation to deal with. But I can talk about the personal situations that I've had, which was me trying to take care of people that didn't need it, and it hurt me.
That's how you knew it was an addiction.
Yeah, and being an artistic helpaholic artist, we're loaded with the addictions of, oh my God, look at this, let's do that, let's feel that. It's what gives us the nature of creativity. We're taking the invisible and making it visible. The pictures idea that you have behind you, I took ideas from the invisible and made it visible. And so that can get a little confusing at times. So luckily, I have my big, husband, my JSOC operator husband, who is like, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" That took about 10 years for me to start saying, "Oh," but I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Would you say recovery is always a spiritual process?
No, no, I don't think it is. I think it can be mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, and they kind of trade. Eventually, it's going to engage all of those. But I think at first it's a very physical process, to where if there's an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction, a sexual addiction, it's all based on the physical world. There's something in the physical world that you can't live without. And it becomes spiritual. If you look at the 12 steps, it is very spiritual. It's a process of working through things. But it depends on the person. I wouldn't say it's totally a spiritual thing. Depends on the kind of person you are.
So it's an individual thing.
It always is an individual thing. We can sit in meetings, and meetings are very blessed. Something happens in a meeting. It's dedicated to the silence of judging other people. We can do it internally, but you don't talk back. So people are allowed to speak and to vent and to hopefully hear something that can move them on their path.
Why is it that some recovery processes or healing centers seem almost cult like?
Well, what is a cult? A cult is, it has somebody that's leading it that is very dynamic, that has a solution to all your problems. And you have to get rid of your family. You have to get rid of your language that you've used. Sometimes you have to get rid of the clothing that you use. You have to change to fit their little dynamic of that. And they can feel like that, but the military or religions can feel cult like. It can feel like that. It depends on which one is which one. But I think with recovery centers, you're dealing with somebody who's looking at changing their behavior and they don't know how. They just don't know how. People don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to go join a cult. What they do is join a group of like minded others. And with the International Cultic Studies Association, it used to be the American Family Situation, we no longer go grab people and take them to a hotel and deprogram them. You have HIPAA laws, you have all that. So we have evolved in that. I would like to see recovery centers become more inclusive of using body code, emotion code, energetic techniques, all kind of different things. But we are ruled by the world of insurance. So people aren't getting the help they need. The homeless population is hugely dealing with mental issues. And if you don't have it when you go on the street, you will when you're trying to come out. So nothing's perfect. It's just not, darn it. My statement is good and evil are poured into the same cup and we drink it unaware. There's icky and there's good with everything. Everything except God. The love, there's no icky with that until we get the emotions and it's not love anymore. We think it is. But I think our confusion about why we're there and what are we doing? What is the purpose? And so recovery centers deal with huge, huge issues, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. It depends on who you are, which one you're at, and what your goals are, and whether or not you can do it. Some people just can't do it. The addictions are very, very strong. Carolyn Mace tells this story in one of her old tapes that I listened to 20 years ago, that she was looking at this woman, this precious little woman who was dying of, I think, HIV. And Caroline was talking to her about smoking. I hope I'm not messing this up. And Caroline could see that addiction to the cigarette was more important than her living, literally, physically living. And addiction reached that point. We can ruin our life if we're so emotionally engrossed in the addictive process. Happens every day, all the time. Dr.
Yes.
Phil and his wife talk about they both came from they're both ACOA, adult children of alcoholics. They came from very addicted families. And they decided before they even met 40 years ago, they've been married 40 years, that when they met, she asked him, "Do you drink?" He said, "No." He said she decided right then he was okay. He think that was funny. But she wasn't going to do it. She wasn't going to do it. She knew. And so it is a personal choice in that sense. We have to make the decision by ourselves, with ourselves, and for ourselves. That has to be an individual thing between us and God. That is why we talk about higher power. In cultic situations, your higher power is the fool standing in front of you. It's got an ego bigger than Texas. That thinks they want, all these gurus end up like that. There's either sexual problems, money problems, power problems, whatever happens, it always ends like that because the draw of getting told all the time how cool you are, it takes its toll. The ego is huge. Ego is what gets us up in the morning and is very involved in addiction, very much involved in it. We make deals with ourselves. What I used to do, God, how old was I? I only drank for 2 years, but I was binge drinking, had a wreck, I was an idiot. I thought, okay, I was living at the lake. In the Reality Pirates Journal, I tell that story. I was living at the lake in Vincent, Alabama, south of Birmingham, near Pell City. And if you're living on an island lake in Alabama, everybody drinks, right? Well, I was drinking more than my share. Then I decided that it's not healthy because I knew it wasn't healthy. Well, I won't drink. I'll just smoke some pot. Okay, so you trade. Then, oh no, 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 I can't even function. I'm not going to smoke. I'm going to just start drinking a little wine, just a little bit, or half a bottle later, you know, uh, and smoking cigarettes. So I was at a frustrating time in my life. I was going through my first Saturn return, and I didn't know where I was. It was horrible, awful, awful, awful. But I just didn't know myself. I had no idea who I was, where I was going, what I was doing. I had no idea. I don't talk about those times because it's not in my consciousness anymore. But did it make me who I am? Maybe. But why? If I who I am, how would I be better if I hadn't done that? So I don't like the statement, well, it made you who you are today. Are you sure that's a great thing? So I don't know. The process is very progressive. And if you are in a cultic situation, there are recovery things that are cultic. If you have a person standing in between you and God that you're putting all your energy into, that isn't good. I don't think that's good.
That's a way of phrasing it. If there's somebody standing between you and God or you and higher power, you're supposed to be worshiping that guru who has all the answers, then that's a sign.
Yeah. And then we have the priests and the clergy and the this and that. Their job is to teach and heal. It is not to run your life and to tell you all these things you're not supposed to do, or God will hate you, or you're not going to heaven. You're not, that's ridiculous. All you have to do, you don't need any of the isms, any Rosicrucianism. I am a Rosicrucian. Judaism, Christianism, any of the ism. We don't need that to evolve. They are stepping stones. Are they okay? Probably. Probably so. I will choose to go to mass when I feel it. Because then when I feel it, it's not a real thing that I am doing. It's something that I feel. To watch the Eucharist, to see the transubstantiation, it's very precious when I do go. But that's who I am. I use tarot cards. I'm a Rosicrucian. I do astrology. I use anything that works for me. And so to have other people in a recovery process say that's the only thing that works, I'm not sure about that. The only thing that's going to work is getting in touch with yourself.
And that's sometimes what people are avoiding at all costs.
But we all do. The scariest thing I think you'll ever see is yourself. I mean, it's like, oh my God, I did what? You and I have had this discussion. How do you stop doing a behavior that isn't good for you. Well, we have to become self-aware. To me, what works, I used to overeat all the time, especially during, oh my God, a terrible story. Back at the lake, I probably smoked some. I was coming home from band practice. I was in a band, played keyboard, and I would go get a bag of cookies and I would eat them privately where nobody could see. It was between me and the cookies. So I used to love those wedding cookies. You ever seen those? They're little bitty sugar cookies covered with powdered sugar.
Oh, yes.
Oh God, they're so good. So there I am driving home from Pell City from band practice, and I'm eating my cookies, and I get pulled over. The cop, and it turns out I wasn't speeding. There's something wrong with my license plate. I rolled down the window and I looked at him, and he cracked up. He said, "What the hell is that?" I was covered in white powder. Could it because I was doing a little too. He was laughing so hard. He says, "Sweetheart, just go home. Whatever's going on with you, I don't need to know."
Wow.
So we get ourselves in the, and I've got all kind of dumb shit Zoli stories, but so what? We all do it. We grow, we grow, we grow, we grow. And one of the main things is not to hide your addiction behind ego and say, nobody else has this. Nobody else can do this. If you can find one person that's trustworthy, I would suggest a counselor. These people that are addiction therapists, oh my God, the schooling they have to go through. It's really amazing. I would suggest you don't go through somebody that's had some experience with it, that don't have degrees. Please don't do that because they can't stand in the light of day if they're next to the real one. Please, please, please find somebody that's real, that's logical. And there's so much help out there. The first time I went to a meeting, I said nothing. I'm listening to this AA meeting. I'm thinking, well, I'm a binge drinker. I'm not an alcoholic. So I don't, is there a meeting for binge drinkers? So I went to a different one for Codependency Anonymous because my real addiction was codependency. I know what you think. I don't know what I think. I know how to take care of you. I don't know how to take care of me. And codependency is the mother of all addictions. So I went to a CODA meeting and I listened to people tell my story because it was their story. It scared me to death. I thought I've never told anybody. I didn't know anybody could talk this language and had these feelings. It changed my life. So help is out.
We really do need like-minded others around us.
Well, sure we do. Yeah, we do. We get into the same signature of energy as other people. We have energy fields that can talk easily back and forth. I was thinking this morning about what's going on globally. I was thinking about addiction because I knew we were going to talk about it. It seems that we are either in a big pool of water or a big pool of fire. The earth, the water, we're in the Kali Yuga period, which is very fiery and changing, but we are in the age of Aquarius with all this water. So it's things are earth and water, earth and water. We'll get in this big pool of water and it's all emotional. And you get out, you're still wet, you're still emotional, you dry off, then you get into the big pool of fire and you go through these transformations. You get out of that and you're still trying to shake that off. Where is the balance point? The balance point is what we're looking for. That is a process of getting yourself through it. In the 12 steps, there's a fourth step that you get to, and you review your life and you tell your story. And when you go through the whole thing, what I still do is the 10th step. I'll take an assessment of my life many times and say, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? But that's also very personal. You can't tell another person what they have to do unless they're in your face messing up your life. You have every right to say, get out of here.
That's so true. I think it's Jesus said, take care of the log in your own eye before you worry about the splinter in your brother's eye.
Oh, yeah, a whole forest. It really, really is. And that has to do with blame. And I call the biggest addiction blamahol. We project and we blame because we want to see what that looks like on somebody else. Now, in marriage, I've spoken of this before, family systems therapy, David Snarch's work. He says that in marriages, one of the things that you do all the time is project. We just do it. Well, you're doing that behavior, and the other person's thinking, well, you're doing that too. But we can't see it. It takes us a while to own things once we're dealing with something. And sometimes you have a lot to deal with at one time. But I think the pulling back and having enough time and a process, find a process that works for you. Find a prayer life or some sort of spiritual life. And not everybody wants a prayer life. You don't have to have that. I don't mean you have to, but have something that is going to teach you and pull you in. And it can be anything. It can be, I'm going to go sit on the ground. I'm gonna go to a church. I'm gonna talk to people. I'm gonna play with my dog or whatever. Something that you can change that focus from out there projecting everything to in here to, oh, I feel that. It has to do with the feeling nature.
What would you say to people who struggle with that feeling?
We all do. We all struggle with that. It's part of being human. Here we are in these people suits. I wrote this, God, years ago, this poem, male or female, searching for truth is just a soul in a person suit, which we are. We're just people. And we do the same goofy stuff. That's why we blame the other person for doing it because we can't believe we're doing it. We just can't. Am I going to stop? No. My dying breath, I'll probably be pointing to somebody else. It's just there are things that you agree to with human nature, and you're just going to not stop doing that. The point is to learn to catch ourselves when we are doing it. Go, well, did that again. You know, that's the purpose if you're married of having a good counselor that can work with you and keep you moving forward because we all get stuck. I think any good advice has to do, once again, I know I harp on it, but there's no other way. Find out more about yourself. Find what you really love in life. Find what you passion for. What did you come here to do? You're not just floating around. You came here for a reason and you can make a difference.
What about people who are struggling to see that reason, or they feel like they're stuck in a place where their purpose is not possible?
That can be a very precious time. It can be a time of crisis where you are just at the end of the way that you've done everything before. I know those feelings. Oh my God, I call it the keeper at the gate. Being an Aries, it's the Marines. We run into a wall. That didn't hurt. Well, I'll run into that wall. No, run into that wall. Well, when are you going to stop running into walls? I don't know. So we do this repetitive behavior, and sooner or later, it gets old. You get a belly full of that. And when we get sick enough of it, we will change, but not until we see the consequences of that. And we're all alike in that way. Some people are better at it than others. Some people never get it. Some people keep getting one thing after another. I think we all fit somewhere in between those two.
It's all part of the game of life.
It really is. And I know I harp on this, but we're just all in these people suits. And I don't care how evolved you are or how evolved you think you are. God saved me from the New Age religion thinking they're all ascending. You're not. Just calm down, get in your body. Did you brush your teeth today? You checked your bank account? Who have you spoken to? You washed your face? Have you checked your life? What'd you eat today? Those are the things that make you evolve. That is the basics of it, to have something you get up for every day that you have to do that you probably don't want to do. What is your process? Especially if you're retired or if you're at home and you don't work, you need some sort of process. Free floating is not, you're not a porpoise. You can't just free float through life. You need a purpose. This is all my stuff, I'm telling you, but I can guarantee you the people I see who have a reason and a purpose. Some people, they are retired and they're taking care of their grandkids. God help them. What a job is that? Some people retire and they think they're going to do all this house stuff. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. My husband says it's hysterical. Some people, this guy he met, he said, I'm going to retire and open a winery. Tom said, why? You don't drink. So we get these ideas in our heads to where, unless we have other people involved in our life and we have some sort of rational, reasonable lifestyle, we will go off on tangents. We just will. And is it always bad? No, I'm not saying any of this is bad. But in order to be healthier and useful to ourselves and others, not codependently, but to find a way to participate in life, to participate. That's why I started doing this ZoliArt. How long did it take y'all to convince me to do this videos or the radio? Oh my God, what, 5 years? I'm not doing that. I do that to get this out of me. And because I know that I speak for and with every man. I'm no different than you. I'm not an alien. I know I'm not. I'm a person. I've got a birth certificate. I'm not an ascended master. I'm not a guru. I'm just a person. And that is what I'm speaking to in other people, the reasonableness of having something during your day. Look at your life. You have 3 sons, you have a husband, you have a life. There are things that you have a job, there's things that you have to do. And then what we do in the back of our mind is, oh, if only I didn't have to do that. Well, what would you be doing, Zoli? I did that the other day. I woke up and thought, "Oh my God." In fact, we talked about this in the radio thing show yesterday. "Oh my God, what am I'm so stressed. What am I going to do? I have all this stuff to do. I'm trying to get Tom and Till ready to go up to the high country, trying to all their pack, their guns, their packs, all their food, all this and that. Then I've got 4 loads of laundry to do. I needed this, I needed that." And I finally said, "Well, Soli, what else would you be doing?" So that's something to ask yourself. What else would I be doing? Well, anything other than this. Well, name something. What would you do? Nothing. So what the school I'm in now is what you and I talk about a lot of going, this is good. I'm present. I'm here. And finding at my old age, I'm finding more reason and more presence in my life to be um, joyful, just doing the common, because an addiction is that helpaholic thing. The addiction is, oh, look how stressed I am. What a big fat martyr I am. Why are you a martyr? There's nobody for miles around, Zoli. If you want to go take a look, there's a bear, there's a deer, there's a fox, but nobody's pressuring you. So this is what we do. We get into these addictive patterns of behavior. And how do we change those? We can only change those by getting sick of doing it. I was watching myself getting embarrassed at myself. What are you so stressed about? Zoli, what are you doing? I was getting more out of the stress than I was about not stressing. And so there's the brain chemicals. There we got some dopamine, some GABA, you got some serotonin going into the excitatory places and jacked up. Get a lot of energy for that. What are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of that? My cat's looking at me like I had a horn growing out of my forehead. Like, what are you doing? But it took me a couple weeks to get that. I don't expect it should have taken me any less time because it was a lifelong thing for me. So we each come in with these big things to fix. Do we get them? I don't know. I have no idea. I can only work on mine, and it's not always pretty.
It does seem difficult and like a much more easy place to accept the idea of 5D ascension into this non-physical, because now I don't have to pay bills or do chores. But you make a good point. Well, what are you going to be doing then?
Exactly. The escape. The escape artist is a very interesting part of addiction. Well, I heard this hysterical guy in a meeting once. He says, "I'm going to fly to Oklahoma to be with my family. I'll be on the plane. There's alcohol on the plane and nobody knows me." We were all laughing. Did he drink? I don't know if he did or not, but he was thinking, there it is. I'm free. But we do this escape artist stuff. We do it all the time. If you look at YouTube, I heard Dr. Phil talking with Glenn Beck last night. Amazing, amazing podcast they had. And Glenn Beck was talking about how a lot of the influencers talk about addiction. They will rent this airplane, the inside of an airplane, and they will film themselves in all these clothes with these famous people that they're going here, doing that. Then they just go home. None of that ever really happened. But there are young people forming their life that's the life they want. Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Everything does. So that is living in the middle all the time. It's going to end. Then what are you going to do?
Try not to get attached to the moment and go back to what you were saying about being present. Okay, this is what I'm doing now. There's no use stressing about it. This is what needs to be done.
That's the reason. Indeed, it is. It's not supposed to be easy. And media, internet, filled with all these, here, this will make it easier for you. Well, a washing machine certainly made Monday wash day easier. That's a good thing. That's a universal thing. But the quick get rich quick schemes and the do this, take that, we are rampant with that in society. We will see an end to that. The stats are now that people are drinking a lot less than they were, unless you live in Montana with a whole state. Where's the state? And I spoke about this. Look at the United States, where do people drink the least? The Southeast, which is all blue. Montana looked like a tomato had exploded all over it. Why? I'm not going to get into that, but things are getting better. And I harp on that too. Look for the good and create something in your life. You can make the difference. You can do something that's really, really cool. It doesn't have to be big, but it's out there and in here.
That's a wonderful reminder that there is beautiful things happening, and you can make beautiful things happen no matter where you are.
It's simplicity. Simplicity lasts a lot longer than any of this stuff. It really does. When I focus on that, my life goes a lot better. I just spent 3 days cleaning up the ZoliArt studio up here. Someday I'll show you all of this. It's like organized chaos up here. It's like my husband calls it a Brooklyn pawn shop because it has all these different energy areas. And my agreement to myself, when I redid it a couple of years ago, I said, I'll do this, then I'll wait a year or so, see what fits and what doesn't fit. So I had to come up now and say, now it's different, this fits. So we do have to renew and review our life. And that is a lot what recovery is about. We're going to have regrets. We're going to have good things we did, icky things we did. I can't answer to any of that for anybody else, but for myself, I use body code and emotion code to help me clear all that energy work. I don't know if you can hear that noise. That's the garage door going up downstairs. I think Tom and Till are back there. Welcome to Montana, everybody.
Adventure's just outside the door where you're living.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is.
And that's actually a good reminder for what we're talking about is there are lovely things all around you. So whatever you're recovering from or whatever you're struggling with, it will be okay and you can keep going.
Yes, and there are people out there had similar experiences, if not the same ones. But what we're all trying to do is to go within ourselves and find some kind of peace to share, but you don't have to share all of it. Boundaries are important. There's got to be a way to find to find pieces in other people that we can relate to. But you don't have to share all this all the time. You just don't. And so you're going to, as you get to know yourself better, you will have boundaries. This is where I stop and this is where you start. And there's a line in the sand. Took me years to get that. I was 60 years old before I really got that. That I thought I had the right to say, you don't get to be in my life. You don't, but you do, because we can mutually help each other. We can do these things that we share energy with. You share experience and you share your energy field. So you share this signature of experience and of energy. And people will come out of your life and some people will come back in. That's going to happen. I've had people just drop me out of their life immediately. I've done that with other people because sometimes your contract is over and they don't end beautifully. Not everything is beautiful or good or kind. It's just not. So what we try to do is to pull some of that back in. It's like adding a little more sweetness to it. When I do that, I feel better, but I still grieve some of the people that aren't in my life, and maybe they grieve me. Maybe they're glad. Oh my God, I'm glad she's gone. I don't know. It's life.
It is life. We lose people, we gain people.
Oh,
That collaboration is important throughout.
it is. It is. And you're not going to get away from it. Whether you're living in a city, whether you're working in a job in the city with other people, whether you're at home in your jammies on the internet and you work that way, we have to reach other people. I heard somebody say once that if you want total heaven, that is you being by yourself because nobody's going to mirror back any of your behavior. But if you want to accomplish anything, you got to do it with other people. Who, how many, and where, that's up to you. And we do have more power of choice. I don't like the statement, oh, you have more power to do that. I don't like that statement because it's like starting an engine and watching it take off. I think we have more ability to choose. And when we use that free will and we do choose, we can make some really good decisions. My husband likes to say nothing healthy happens after 10 at night, 11 at night, 12 at night, whatever. Nobody ever made a great decision. Say, I was so drunk and I just bought a house or I just bought a car. So we want a reasonableness to our mind, but it's kind of changed. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. Have to be tolerant in that way.
And find what works for you, whether it works for others or not.
That's true. But when you find what works for you, there are other people that also works for them, and that's collaboration or that's friendship. It's one of those two things, or maybe both.
Yeah, both. Often the best friendships come from collaboration.
I think so. I think so because you're working many times. Look what we're doing with ZoliArt. We're working for something to put energy out to give to other people. We really don't want anything back. The reason why I have comments shut off on all the social sites and on YouTube is I don't need to know what you think about this. I know what I think, and I'm going to say what I think. It's like watching a newscast. We didn't call Walter Cronkite and say, well, here's what I think about what you said. Not that I'm him, but what I'm doing is expressing it and I'll let it go. And it's not social. It's not a social media thing. I have that with my own family. It's one of my boundaries. So you don't always need impressions from other people, not all of the time. You'll find what works for you, but it takes some finding. Other people will mirror that to you at times. We can learn a lot from other people, for good or ill.
Never stop learning. That's important.
You learn for a while and then you feel like you're not learning anything because you're accessing what you already learned. And we're having to ingrain that and say, does this work for me? Does that work for me? We go through these cycles. Everything's a cycle. So I don't think we're learning all the time. It's available to do that. But if I'm learning all the time, the fool I am, I'm never gonna learn what I learned and use it. I'm not gonna use it. I'm gonna be running past it like I'm shopping at a sale or something. We'll figure it out. I believe in humanity. We have a golden future ahead of us. We have a brilliant, brilliant future for this planet. We can't forget that it's out there and don't believe everything you read or you hear because most of it's not true. Trust in yourself, trusting your intuition. It's always there. That's always there. Nobody can take that away from you. It's always there for you. And it's an absolutely beautiful, loving, divine story.
Well, thank you, Zoli, for bringing it back to hope as always.
Thank you, Linda.
Enjoy your week. We'll see you next time. And reach out through ZoliArtMontana.com with any questions, as always.